Welcome back to the Sales Revolution. I'm Ingrid Maynard, founder and managing director of The Sales Doctor. This is a solo episode today where I'm going to talk about a particular topic. And the topic that I've chosen for today is building your sales leadership pipeline. One of the recommendations that PwC, DDI, Korn Ferry has, and also Gartner has, is for organisations to really look at building their leadership pipelines. But of course, my lens is usually a little bit more nuanced than that. And I would suggest that organisations could also really benefit from building their sales leadership pipelines for a couple of reasons. One is that sales leadership talent is very difficult to find. It's really tough to find. The bigger the organisation, the easier, I would say, because you've got big salaries to pay, you've got a bigger net to cast. You can cast your net a little bit wider. But if you're the next tier down, if you're a small to medium enterprise and you're searching for a sales leader that's really going to take your organisation into the next level and be able to lead a fantastic high-performing sales team, it's a lot harder. The competition's a lot stiffer because of salaries, but it's also really hard to find people that are going to stay the course. So, you might be able to lure them in with some good salaries, but then how are you going to keep them? And that to me is where a sales leadership pipeline comes into play. There are three things to do in order to build your sales leadership pipeline. They are: 1, nurture talent early; 2, promote and support sales leadership; and 3, build some incentive in to build the next layer of sales leadership. Let's look at the first element, which is nurturing talent early. A few weeks ago, I had a wonderful young sales leader in. Now, she was a sales director, I think, and she's only early 30s, but she started with the organisation at the very tender age of 16. Now, she is probably one of those people that I would suggest is an outlier in the sense that she brought with her some maturity that probably was way beyond her years. But the reason I mention her, and it was Tamsin Trimboli, but Tamsin didn't stay with that organisation all the way through. She actually changed jobs up a little bit in her early years, but then came back, returned to her employer. But they recognised in her that she had a future in the organisation, that she had a particular aptitude towards sales, high performance and sales leadership. And they nurtured her towards that end. And what they did was they curated a career for her that I think is actually best practice. So what they did was they gave her lots of experience leading adjacent teams. So she started in the sales team. She was successful there. Then she was given leadership roles in customer service, in operations, and then came back into leading the sales team, and now leading the leaders of the sales team, which to me is a carefully curated career path. But in doing that, they also built a pipeline underneath her of emerging sales leaders. So what they did was they recognised that talent and they gave her opportunity at a young age and early and quickly, with support, to be successful in each of those roles. So that to me is best practice around nurturing that talent nice and early. The second element that I talked about there was promoting and supporting. So when we've got, say, a Gen Z that's joined our team, one of the things that we need to know if we're going to hold on to really great talent for Gen Z in particular is if we don't promote them quickly, or if we don't outline what their career path might be, they're going to lose interest, and that's where they'll leave us. We might say that that's disloyal, I think we've just got to accept that that generation really has very clear plans for themselves and kind of looks at us as the employer and says, well, do you fit in with my plans? Rather than for many of us who grew up in different generations, we looked at, will this organisation have me? Am I lucky enough to have this job? They come from a very different perspective. So if we're going to keep hold of some of the fantastic people that are now entering our workforce and are getting to the age now, 25, 26, where they're looking at those career paths, those leadership pathways. If we're looking at future sales leaders, we need to promote those people nice and early, but we need to support them. And this is where I think training and mentorship and coaching can really come into play. Now, when we put people into a sales leadership role, we expect them, based on their prior performance, especially if they're top performers, just to naturally perform at being a sales leader. And it's not the case. It's a completely different set of skills. It's a completely different set of behaviours, and it's a completely different structure that they need to implement if they're going to be successful. So if we're going to promote them early, we need to support them. Without that support, the promotion in and of itself could actually be to our detriment, because if they're left floundering without a level of training, managing, or people around them that can guide them to be successful in that new role, we could end up losing them, and we could lose them to people that actually just have those mechanisms in place. So let's make sure that if we're going to promote them, that we also support them with the right training, coaching and mentorship in our organisations, but also looking externally as well. And the third one that I've outlined here is to incentivise and build that next layer of leadership. So when I talked about Tamsin being promoted to being a leader of sales leaders, in doing that, what you're actually creating there is a pipeline of emerging leaders. So if you incentivise someone like a Tamsin, who's a sales director, to look for her replacement, and there's actually an incentive in place to make sure that transition is not only a smooth one, but it's a successful one. So how do we move her sideways while she mentors, coaches and supports her replacement, and they do the same for the person under them? So there's a consistent pathway for those leaders to fall into. That is not only how you're going to build retention in your team, but you're going to also build some longevity, some experience and some depth across your sales leadership level. That to me, it just makes so much sense when you're talking about something as fundamental as generating revenue, not just for today or not just for today's shareholders or an end of financial year result, but for ongoing success. It makes sense to me to make sure that we're nurturing the leaders of that very thing, which is revenue. So they're the three. I'll just repeat them again. So nurture talent early, promote and then support the people that you've promoted with training, mentorship and coaching. And then finally, incentivise your leaders to build out the next layer of leadership so that they're successful, and then there's that continual cycle of success. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you next time on The Sales Revolution. Okay, you've been listening to The Sales Revolution. I'm Ingrid Maynard. And to find out how the Sales Doctor can help your organisation to transform its revenue, growth and profit, visit us on our website at www.thesalesdoctor.com.au. I look forward to your company next episode. Bye for now.